Welcome, welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. It's great to have so many folks on a Thursday night. We're very happy to have you with us. My name is Judy Code. I'm with Pax Christi USA, and this is a webinar focused on the solidarity efforts that are taking place at Delaney Hall in Newark. Tonight, we are providing translation into Spanish, and so everyone on this call needs to choose a language channel in order to hear all the participants. So please, I'm trying to admit as many people as possible so everyone can hear this at once, so nobody misses the message. On your menu at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you should see a globe.
On mute.
It might be hidden. There's a circle with 3 dots.
Oh, I know what the problem is. It's on my hearing aids.
And please click on that and click on the interpretation globe. And if you would like to just hear English, please choose English. And if you need Spanish, choose Spanish. And I am going to ask my colleague, Scott Wright, he's going to repeat all of that in Español.
Thank you, Judy. Gracias. Por los que hablan español.
For those who speak Spanish, this is the English interpretation now.
Abajo de su pantalla se puede ver un globo que dice
At the bar, at the bottom of your screen, you can see a globe that says interpretation.
Y si no lo vea,
and if you don't see it, you can see the 3 dots.
Se puede prender los 3 puntos.
And you can click on the 3 dots.
Y de allí prender lo que dice español.
And then choose either Spanish or English.
So welcome on behalf also of the Pax Christi USA Immigration Working Group, which has completed its 2nd year. And we are so grateful for the participation, and particularly for tonight's program, because Pax Christi USA, along with many, many other groups, have been there from the beginning, even before the beginning, at Delaney Hall Immigration Detention Center in Newark, New Jersey. And I think in these difficult times, we had 2 difficult decisions by the Supreme Court that will impact 1,300,000 immigrants, taking away their temporary status. And 2 weeks ago, $70 billion more of money was allocated to ICE. So in these difficult times, we look for signs of hope. And definitely what is happening at Delaney Hall and what we will hear tonight from many of the participants, many of the organizers, I hope will inspire us to go forward with faith in the power of gospel nonviolence and in resistance nonviolently to mass deportation and mass detention. So without further ado, I'd like to ask one of the participants in the Immigration Working Group, Mimi Dara from Pittsburgh, to lead us in a gospel reading, and then we'll turn the program over to Kathy O'Leary, Pax Christi member, and right at the heart of the efforts there in Newark, New Jersey. So Mimi.
This is a reading from the Gospel of 25th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew. At the appointed time, the promised one will come in glory, escorted by all the angels of heaven, and will sit upon the royal throne, with all the nations assembled below. Then the promised one will separate them one from another, as a shepherd divides the sheep from the goats. The sheep will be placed on the right hand, the goats on the left. The ruler will say to those on the right, "Come, you blessed of my Abba God, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. Naked, and you clothed me. I was ill, and you comforted me. In prison, and you came to visit me." Then these just will ask, "When did we see you hungry and feed you, or see you thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you as a stranger and invite you in, or clothe you in your nakedness? When did we see you ill or in prison and come to visit you?" And the ruler will answer them, "The truth is, every time you did this to the least of my brothers and sisters, you did it for me." Then the ruler will say to those on the left, "Out of my sight, you accursed ones, into that everlasting fire prepared for the devil and the fallen angels. I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you gave me no welcome, naked, and you gave me no clothing. I was ill and in prison, and you did not come to visit me." Then they in turn will ask, "When did we see you hungry or thirsty or homeless or naked or ill or in prison and not take care of you?" The answer will come, "The truth is, as often as you neglected to do this to one of the least of these, you neglected to do it to me." They will go off to eternal punishment, and the just will go off to eternal life. The Gospel of the Lord.
So thank you, Mimi. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Judy. And thank you, Pax Christi community for joining us tonight. I'm Kathy O'Leary. I'm the New Jersey Region Coordinator for Pax Christi. I have been involved in anti-ICE detention work for almost 20 years now. And as Scott alluded to, Pax Christi New Jersey has been outside Delaney Hall since before it reopened in May of last year. We were part of the struggle to keep it from opening as an ICE detention facility under the Obama administration. And members of Pax Christi New Jersey have been involved in this kind of work, trying to minister to people who were in detention, to their families, and to shut down detention centers, to get our fellow Catholics, our fellow Christians, our fellow Americans to recognize the humanity of everyone who was caught up in this extremely unjust and brutally cruel system. It was over 30 years ago when the first detention center was opened in New Jersey, the Elizabeth Detention Center, and Pax Christi New Jersey was part of the very earliest protest outside. And I clarify the protest outside because the protests at the Elizabeth Detention Center started inside. It started inside a year after the facility was opened, with what some people called a riot, but what we prefer to call an uprising. The people inside had endured horrible conditions, terrible food, degrading treatments, sexual, physical abuse, and had petitioned everyone that they could, called everyone that they could, spoken out in every way that they could. And their anger boiled over one day. And they destroyed much of the inside of the facility, but really had no plan for their escape. It was really just a spontaneous outburst. And after that, everyone was transferred away to other facilities. Very few people were released. And then after that, the Archdiocese of Newark and the Jesuit Refugee Services started working inside the facility with both a civics class and a Bible study. On the weekend, on the Sunday where the reading was Matthew 25, the priest who was doing Bible study wrote, "I was in prison and you visited me on the board." And they were thrown out. They were thrown out because they were giving people too much hope. That's exactly what the warden said. So we've known for almost 30 years that these places are about trying to steal people's hope. The hope of reuniting with their loved ones, of being free in a country that they believe will provide them with a decent life and safety. So when we heard that Delaney Hall was going to reopen last year, a friend of mine decided that she was going to go and hand out flyers and engage in dialogue with the people who were going to work there. She was hoping to create a labor crisis, a labor shortage before the facility was opened. She went there by herself with flyers that she dubbed a call to conscience. And she listed on there what all the major religions taught about welcoming the stranger. Now, the interesting thing for me, which I always chuckle about, is she's an atheist. But she understands the power of religion, and she's also an ethical humanist. So while she doesn't believe in God, she believes in the dignity of every human being. So she was reminding all of us people of faith what we're supposed to do. So a few days later, I went and joined her, and then a few more of us joined her, and a few more. And then we were joined by Mayor Baraka. He's the mayor of Newark, which is the largest city in New Jersey, and also where Delaney Hall sits. And I think most people read the headlines. He was, most people call it arrested. I refuse to use the word arrested because ICE has no authority to arrest U.S. citizens, and certainly not for trespassing. So he was what they said was trespassing. They took him into custody and held him for several hours. And on the heels of that scuffle, in June 12th of last year, there was an uprising inside of Delaney Hall. That was only a month after Delaney Hall opened, and tensions had risen to the level of an uprising already. What happened was people were not fed for over 20 hours. When food did finally arrive, it was either 2 slices of bread and a bottle of water, or a single hot dog and a bottle of water. So not knowing when you might get fed next, and being held in very difficult conditions otherwise, led to tempers flaring. And some of the men in one of the units, I guess they recognized that one of the walls was very shoddily constructed, and were able to just push through it with their hands. Apparently it was an exterior wall that was only made with sheetrock and some wire mesh. They were able to push through and get down to the ground level just with some bed sheets and get out. And one of them actually got all the way to California before he was apprehended. So that began a period of a heavy militarized presence outside of Delaney Hall for a few weeks, similar to what we're seeing now. But our ministry outside of Delaney Hall evolved from those flyers that my friend Terry started with. And we continue from that day that she started at the end of April. We began going almost every day. And it is now every single day we have a presence outside of Delaney Hall. So what began as an attempt to dialogue with the staff ended up becoming a relationship with the visitors who were coming to try to visit. Now, Delaney Hall had been rushed open, so many of the policies, procedures, systems were not in place, and that included visiting. So it seemed like they were making it up as they were going along, which maybe they were. And policies and procedures, including visiting hours, would change from day to day, and the information that people were being given would also change. So we started trying to collect information about when visiting hours were and what the policies and procedures were, and trying to give that to people as they came. And then one day we were there outside the facility. We were there as with the Interfaith Center of New York doing a prayer vigil, and a woman came from Boston, and she'd been there to go visit her father, but they wouldn't let her in because she was wearing ripped jeans, and ripped jeans are against the dress code. So she came to our group and she asked if anybody had a spare set of pants, which, I don't usually carry spare pants around with me. But another woman who was about her size, she was from the Episcopal Diocese of New York. She said, I have my friend's keys to my friend's minivan. Let's go and switch pants. And they did, and the young woman got to go in, and the smile on her face just lit up the whole place. So, and then later on in that day, other people were giving up their shoes so that people could go in, because open-toed shoes and Crocs were against the dress code. So it dawned on all of us, sort of at the same time, that we needed to start bringing clothes and shoes to Delaney Hall. And then we started watching as people were forced to sit in the driveway for many hours because there was no indoor waiting area for the visitors. And that was unique amongst all the ICE detention facilities in the country. It was actually part of the ICE's own standards that a waiting room should be provided, but none was provided at Delaney Hall. So it was a very hot summer last summer. So we were bringing chairs and umbrellas for shade, because there was no shade in the park in the driveway. Water and food that then became toys for the kids, bubbles and sidewalk chalk, to create a little bit of joy for the children who were most likely going to see either their father or their mother in detention. So what started as what most people would recognize as a protest turned into service for the visitors, support for the visitors, and then turned into community, because we got to know who they were. We got to know about who their loved ones were, what issues they were having inside, what issues they were having at home. They would come to us for help and advice. And then they would come back sometimes with food for us. We had people make us tamales and get up early to make us oatmeal and hot chocolate. People would come back with cases of water. And sometimes they try to give us cash. But it was a really beautiful expression of solidarity, of community, and of love. But we knew that the winter was coming, so we were petitioning the county government, which had property right next door, which is because the county jail is there. We were petitioning them to help us create some kind of shelter for the visitors. And at the middle of January 13th to be exact, they came through. They came through with a tent. It looks like a wedding tent with the cathedral windows and everything. But it was a space that we were able to heat with diesel heaters. And we were able to have a enclosed area and a private space where we could have conversations with people about what they were dealing with. It was also a space where we were distributing diapers and grocery store gift cards and pantry bags, and still the toys for the kids. So as I was looking at the graphic that Judy created for this webinar, and I was just reviewing the corporal works of mercy, and I looked and I said, you know what? We're doing all of this. Thankfully, we haven't had to bury the dead. But, and just a little before, as I was preparing for this, I looked at the spiritual works of mercy, and I can check off a lot of those too. And I just, I want to touch on the Father Brian. I want to bring Father Brian Massingale into this conversation. He's someone who's had a profound effect on me. He's one of our teachers of peace. And reading, what I think most people consider his seminal work, the Racial Justice in the Catholic Church. He lays out what I consider a framework for how to repair the injustice of racism. But I think it really applies here as well. I mean, there's so much of the immigration that it has to do with our broken immigration system that has to do with the fact that it's founded on white supremacy. So it goes, the first step is laments, that we need to not just grieve for the damage that's been done, but we need to name it and call it out. The next is compassion. We need to have compassion for the people who are suffering. Then comes solidarity. And from solidarity follows conversion and communion. And I feel like we've gone through a lot of that. We've gone through a lot of that together as a community. And that the way for us to move through this dark time, this very dark time, is to build community. And that's how we're going to resist the darkness. So, I have the great pleasure now of introducing Father Alex Gaitan, who is a priest in the Claretian order. He works in the Archdiocese of Newark. He is the director of the immigration ministry, and he's also the volunteer Catholic chaplain at Delaney Hall. I was a little bit worried about whether or not he was going to make it tonight, because I knew he was hearing confessions at 4 p.m. today, and I know those can go long, but he's here, so I'm going to turn it over to him. Oh, you need to unmute.
Okay, I got it.
There you go.
So thank you very much, Kathy. Thank you, all of you, for being here. And it is a pleasure for me to be here with you and share with you this time. Well, I'm new around here, New Jersey, and I got here in 2022, and I was part of the support of the UN team of the Claretian missionaries. That we are in 73 countries, and we advocate for the defense of human rights in those countries. And so I was coming here just for support, but I've been working since I got here in 2003 in immigrant communities in Chicago, Atlanta, California, and now here in New Jersey. And And yeah, I mean, I just arriving, there was a meeting about what are we going to do for the immigrants, and that's how I started getting involved, and I get to know Father Gene Squio, who is a very good friend of Kathy, and I remember we met. Was it the first time when we met and they told my car? No, that was the
Yes, it
second time.
was. It was.
So it was like, okay, this is what is going on. And Kathy saved me from that. She was the one that I didn't even know what to do. Um but anywho, I mean it was a very it has been a pleasure to work with Kathy, and also I know Kathy really has invited us and raised always the awareness for us to be there. And it is I want to just present briefly the migrant ministry in the Archdiocese. We lead the development and expansion of the migrant ministry in the Archdiocese of Newark, which are four counties: Essex, Hudson, Union, and Bergen. And we provide information, formation, and training on the teachings of the church's social doctrine, the U.S. CCB communications, and U.S. civil rights and immigration laws. Form also a local pro-immigrant network to strengthen channels of service to immigrants in the archdiocese, and so it is part of the leading that development of that expansion of the ministry. Initially, we were not allowed. I mean, the archdiocese initially. This is a part-time job for me, but it's not a job. I mean, I think it's a service of the church, a service to our immigrant sisters and brothers, and ministering to the detention centers was not included, but on June 26th, Chaplain Yunyo Chong sent an email requesting for help of the different organizations, especially churches, the archdiocese, and asking for Bibles and rosaries. And that's how I met the chaplain. And so I presented immediately my application, which is a 12 pages long contract with ICE, but the non-disclosure, just stay with the basically the ministering with just religious stuff. So I cannot ask for A numbers. I cannot ask about the status of anything that is happening with them. I cannot do anything besides that. And if I get any kind of information, it's considered contraband, and that would get to the immediate finishing of the contract, the ending of the contract with them. And so on August 17, last year, I started visiting regularly the detention center. And initially, we were only like Thursdays, as always, 4 to 7 p.m. confessions, and they do rotations according to the 5 different units. And then it was Mass on Saturdays at 4, and Liturgy of the Word on Sundays inside the units. That's how we started. And we were only allowed 15 minutes in each unit. And you wonder what can you do in 15 minutes, a service of 15 minutes. And so I decided just a liturgy of the word, and then usually the chaplain would escort me everywhere I go. So I am always supervised by the chaplain inside, and also because every door has a key. And if you I always picture this. I'm so sorry that this is the only kind of image. If you saw the Matrix, remember the Asian guy who was with the keys opening the doors, getting in and out of rooms? Well, it's the same thing. It's the same thing I feel in the Matrix right there. And so and he always carry rosaries with him, and he loves the rosaries. He says people just request rosaries every single day and Bibles. And so we were bringing rosaries, and then this is what happens inside the units. We will go to the common areas where they were watching probably sports or whatever movie in the TVs. They have TVs in those rooms, and usually they will turn off the TVs and say, no, 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 we're gonna pray. So, so we took over the TVs, taking away that moment from them, and what I would call holy resistance. they will get the rosaries, and each one by one we're requesting a personal blessing. So instead of 15 minutes, we ended up like 40 minutes because there was a line of 30 men or 40 asking for a personal blessing. Father, could you pray for my family? Could you pray for my son? Could you pray? I have my court is on Tuesday. Could you help me? And all those things. So I that's what I call holy resistance, giving blessings. We ended up staying in sometimes I would say 42, and not even the guards couldn't do anything. I mean, because I was just praying over there, and it was just something really, really beautiful. One thing that I will describe is I haven't felt so much joy entering into a place of tragedy, you know, just to be able to see them. And sometimes the faces of them because I go to the office of the chaplain and I vest myself. I put my alb, I put my stole, or if I'm doing like the mass, all the chasuble. So I go into the detention center always vested. So they know that we're there. They know this is a symbol on that. And so some of them, they were so approach me crying, thanks God, Father, you're here, give us a blessing. In the beginning they thought that I was working for ICE or for the government, so they were kind of reluctant to approach, and it's normal, it's normal. So that's how we started. And then we one day Chaplain Chung was the one that says, oh, Father, today is Sunday, okay, let's go. But bring everything for the mass. So all of the sudden we were doing masses inside the units, in those same places, and everywhere it was like, yes, we want the mass. And so until one day, some of them, they just some of the detainees probably, they said, you know what, we want to watch TV instead. We want to watch, and it's okay. I mean, to me, it's okay. So then, but we were able to celebrate also on Sunday, and they provide for us a space that they call the small cafeteria, which is behind the kitchen. And so we also have a spiritual program. We were able to move to the spiritual programs that we call Circles of Peace and 12-step spirituality on Wednesdays, again from 4 to 7. And sometimes we also do Bible study if they requested, or one day the women said, we don't want confessions, we want Bible study today, Father. It's like, well, okay, whatever you want. And so it's always trying to create that atmosphere, that moment of intimacy with the Lord, prayer. And it doesn't matter if it takes me like I open always the mass, bring your intentions, say it out loud. Who shall we pray for? Your parents, and it's interesting, most of them are praying for the people outside. Sometimes they don't even pray for themselves. So they have their heart out and praying for peace and praying for the people that today there were people praying for what happened in Venezuela. And so these give me an idea that they are in tune with the world, and they have their heart out, and bringing, especially, I would say I have been blessed because I always give them hope, and it's to find some of the things that I have found there is that some of them, they said, this is a punishment from God. That's why I'm here. And I said, no, no, take away that. You're here because of evil in the world. And I immediately, I said it up front and said, this is a way of racism. This is a way that they're really discriminating against a group of people that are honest, and they're trying to work and give the best who they are to their families. So take away that. And I always try to do that. And I always tell them, this is temporary. This is not forever. And this is a good chance to just reset a little bit your life. I know that it's difficult. I know that you're going through difficulties and everything. And then, we have been working and partnering also with our Muslim brothers and sisters, and with the Christians and evangelicals. Now we have a moment for the evangelical cult or not cult. I mean, I don't know how it's a translation from Spanish, but their prayer service. I would say the prayer service. Every Saturday at 6 p.m. they have the prayer service. The evangelicals, the Christians, they gather, and it's just beautiful. And also our Muslim brothers and sisters, and it's just a moment that I would say, this is what it's supposed to be, like just serving a little time that we have, and to them, and listening to their cases. So, and then now we were able also to, during Holy Week, and starting Lent, we were able to get the approval for Cardinal Tobin to get in, to Bishop Manny Cruz, Bishop Studers, Bishop Chow, and two more priests, Father Camilo and Father Anthony. We were able to celebrate with them Ash Wednesday inside with all the units. And then also during Holy Week, we celebrate entire Holy Week. And this is, I think, is a great thing. It's a great thing that we were able to achieve. And well, we're there. We're trying to help as much as we can. So thank you, Kathy, again. Thank you, all of you, for your support. I also sometimes, once in a while, I just stop by and bring donations. I still have hats and gloves for the next winter. So, and I've been working with the Sisters of Christian Charity from Camden, from Mendham, that they have been really, really generous, and many other people in the migrant ministry that we have. Now we have 9 churches in the Archdiocese that work with migrants. So, anywho, thank you so much, and blessings to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Alex. I have witnessed you coming in and out of Delaney Hall, and I really appreciated your sharing of the holy resistance. I now get to invite 2 women who are on the ground caring for migrant families and those that are detained, Monica and Sally. And I will ask them briefly to introduce themselves, just so that, because I don't have anything to introduce you. I know you very well, but Monica, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. Hi, I'm Monica Aguilar. As an immigrant who came as a child to Jersey City from Ecuador, everything that is going on right now, it's a nightmare. And I joined Action 21 to volunteer with immigrant communities in New Jersey in 2007. I'm still here as a volunteer. And last year, I joined Eyes on Ice at Delaney Hall because I started to go there in May, trying to visit someone who was detained in Jersey City. He was actually one of the first 10 people who were there. And who am I? A person who believes that all of us can do the work of love with our communities, with each other, with ourselves. And just that, all of us are connected. If that was the only thing that I get from being a volunteer and from learning from different people, if that was the only thing that I learned, I already have a treasure with me, to know that all of us are connected, and that anything that is happening to you is also happening to me, and vice versa. And thank you for the invitation today.
Thank you, Monica. And Sally, that's a perfect segue for you to introduce yourself. You often use the phrase Ubuntu, which is really what she was just saying there. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sally Pillay. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you all and share what's been happening at Delaney Hall and in the work that we have been doing here. But like Monica, I am an immigrant here myself. I have been, I know Kathy for close to 20 years. We have been always engaged in the movement around immigration advocacy since I first came into United States that really shocked me as an immigrant coming here. I myself could not recognize why there was asylum seekers detained at the Elizabeth Detention Center. I used to visit that facility around 2006, 2007, when I kind of started my master's, and I was like, what's happening here? And at that time, there was just asylum seekers detained at that facility. And I just remember visiting somebody through the plexiglass and putting his hand out, and just reaching out. And I had so much of just overwhelmed emotions. I was visiting somebody from Rwanda at that time, who had gone through so much during the genocide in Rwanda. And I remember at that point in time, I was like, why is this happening in the United States? That's not what I recognize as the Statue of Liberty, in its representation of immigrants and welcoming the stranger into this land. And ever since that, I was compelled. My entire scope of my education actually changed. I was going into clinical social work practice, and I just engaged in more human rights related work. Ever since that, that's where I've been. That's where my heart has been. My passion lies in doing all of this. Right now, I'm sitting alone in the Radical Hospitality tent, where I'm speaking to you all. And it's just, this is my, I, I don't know how more I can say it, but Kathy knows me for a long time. Monica knows me for a long time. In doing this work that I have been engaged in, it comes from here. It comes from my heart. That's the core of who I am, and that's the core I believe. For me, it's about the people. As an immigrant myself, who's impacted, I'm, being fully transparent. I'm on an H-1B in this country, and I've been maintaining my status for 20 years. That at any point in time, I could be, right? And I could be the family that's standing in line, or somebody's visiting me in detention. But I have chosen to do this work not out of fear, but out of love for who I am. So that's who Sally is.
Thank you.
And, yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Sally. And I realized I did not introduce myself. I'm Sister Susan Francois. I'm a sister of St. Joseph of Peace. I've been a longtime member of Pax Christi, and for the last year, I also have been a periodic weekly volunteer with Eyes on Ice at the tent. I recognize the tent behind you there, Sally, and that's how I've gotten to know these wonderful women. So I get to ask them some questions on our behalf. So I'm going to start with you, Monica. I know that you're very involved advocating for the families with loved ones in detention. So can you tell us about the kind of care and support that they need?
First of all, a friendly voice, arms to hold them, ears to listen, a heart to give them love. And that's for the families. And the next is information that is so important for them. Like Kathy was saying, the way that they're dressed to go and visit, guidance, resources, emergency supplies for the babies, for the moms, food that they may not have any at home, information about lawyers. I have met so many wonderful giving lawyers who came to visit to Delaney Hall, and we're doing work pro bono. It has been, I'm sure it's so difficult for the lawyers to try to gather information from families when their minds are all over the place. They're worried about everything because they have lost a loved one. They have lost, they were left behind. They have lost the person, their loving father, their loving husband, their loving brother. And the lawyers did the best that they could because they were doing it out of their love for humanity. And I'm so thankful those lawyers, the pro bono lawyers that came summer of last year into winter, and to all the volunteers that have come, the ones that are not there, but they're working behind the scenes to make sure that the cards are given to the families, or the food is delivered, or diapers are available, and also to let them know that to let the families know that they're not alone. When I speak to the families, I first introduce myself, and then I tell them what my purpose of being there is. And then I introduce everybody else to show them, look, you're not alone. Look how many people are here. Look how many people care about you, care about what you're going through. And to make sure that they leave with someone's phone number, with someone who they can call anytime for any reason. And sometimes I used to say I shouldn't have said that, because 3 a.m. is anytime for any reason, but that comes with the territory. So that's giving them what they need, asking them a lot of questions sometimes, because they don't know what they need. They don't know what they're doing there, what's going on. Why did this happen to my loved one? Why did they take him like that? Look at my children. And yes, those are the ears that we need to provide to listen to them. And sometimes a conversation that we think that is going to be just a few minutes, it turns into a little more than that. And we just have to be there, let them vent, let them tell us what they're going through, what the children are going through. And while we're doing that, listening, we can ask them several questions just to make sure how they're doing. Some people do say, my mind is not doing well. Other people they don't say it as clearly as that. Other people will just look out there as if they're not there with you. And you just have to honor their minutes, honor their time, and just support them, however that support may look like for that particular family. That's what I think. It's kind of like in so many words that loving bubble that we can create for them at that particular moment.
Thank you for that, Monica. And I have been there many times when we are thanked just for being there, and the families are supporting each other. And it really is the radical hospitality of love and community. So thank you for giving words to that. Sally, you're involved in that, but you're also very involved in advocating for our brothers and sisters that are in detention. You shared kind of how that journey started for you. What does that kind of care and concern and advocacy look like on any given day?
So every day begins with uncertainty, because the needs are constant and they are urgent. My role, and Kathy always is supporting this, because I'm always reaching out to Kathy, and we're working in tandem with a lot of the advocacy that goes on around Delaney Hall. My role in supporting our immigrant brothers and sisters in detention really means responding to whatever crisis comes through that phone on that day. It may be someone who has no money in the commissary, and who hasn't eaten adequately in days. It may be a family desperately trying to find a loved one who has been transferred without notice. It may be connecting someone with a pro bono attorney, coordinating a referral for a habeas petition or a bond request, or helping prepare a privacy waiver so that we can actually advocate for someone whose medical needs are being ignored, or someone who is enduring prolonged detention, specifically not just in Delaney Hall, but across, because I'm getting calls from anyone and everyone, from all facilities around United States. Many of the calls involve medical emergencies. We are working with families, with lawyers, with fellow advocates to ensure that people are receiving necessary care. What we are doing with that information is documenting, gathering records, and advocating those concerns when somebody is seriously at risk. And we supporting families, even after release, or even families outside with housing, rental assistance, transportation, food, clothing, and reconnecting a loved one, because detention doesn't end when someone walks out that door. I want to just say that, and I want to give you an example. So this morning, at 4:30 in the morning, my phone has been ringing nonstop. I did not notice it was coming from the detention. It was coming from a family. And it's a very sensitive case because it's under investigation. And basically, we found out that somebody who's been detained for over 5 months at Delaney Hall, who was one of the participants of the labor and hunger strikes, who was beaten up inside the detention facility, that he had suffered a broken nose less than 2 weeks ago, was basically placed in solitary or medical isolation after he came back from the hospital, and then to be just assaulted last night. And then the phone call, I get it at 4:30 this morning, because he was assaulted, sexually assaulted. And now we have to really respond. And so that's what it looks like. And so I was on the phone, got a hold of Kathy, tried to locate the loved one, got a hold of trying to get the legislators, reaching out to the attorney, trying to get the privacy waivers signed, and trying to ensure that we can push ICE and advocate for this individual's release, but making sure that the individual feels safe and gets the level of care that they need. And the reason why I bring up this case, because it just happened today, is because the needs are ever changing, and the response to these needs are happening. It's just like anytime, as Monica said, I get calls throughout the night, morning. There isn't a time frame for the individuals inside in detention, because they don't have access to a time, number one. But number two, they always are in crisis, right? And the things that they are going through, and the trauma that they are facing every day, re-traumatization that they are facing, that they cling on to, knowing that there's somebody outside who cares about me. There is somebody outside that's going to listen to me. There's someone outside that is going to answer my call, and respond to me, and hopefully I will get the help I need. And so that's what we try to do. And it's not just me. It's, I cannot do all of this work alone. And it's so many people, and many are on this call as well, who continuously will work together to support one another and to try to help our, detained brothers and sisters, and also to support and help the families.
Thank you, Sally. You've already kind of started moving into this next question. What are the greatest challenges facing families and detainees? And part of it, I think, is that it's constantly changing. It's getting more and more inhumane. And, I think that story you just illustrated breaks my heart, probably breaks everyone's heart. And for them to know that they had someone to reach out to. But I'm wondering if you or Monica have other senses for us to know on this call, what are the greatest challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what I see in terms of working with those, the families and brothers and sisters who are detained, they often feel invisible. Mm-hmm. And our goal has to make sure that they are at the forefront of whatever the struggle and the challenges are, so that we make them more visible, and what they're facing that we are walking alongside them in this challenge, whatever they are facing. Families are living in constant fear. There is financial hardship. We are in crisis mode every day with families. We are working right now with a mother with a very young child who showed up here 2 days ago, who has to pay back 2 months of rent, who is facing eviction. And that's daily. That's just one family, but there's many, many, many more families that are in the same struggle because the breadwinner is often the ones who are detained. And so we're putting families in this crisis mode, experiencing the hardest challenges of their life. Detention is isolating, right? We are seeing people's health deteriorating inside. And I know, and many of you all know who have been here at Delaney Hall, we have many people who are detained here for over a year now, since the facility has opened, but we also have people who have been transferred since they entered the country from the border. So we have people in here who are detained close to 2 years already. And the trauma that they have experienced and continue to experience is exorbitant. And I think as a community of faith, we are called to respond, not only with compassion, as Monica mentioned, but with action. And compassion means, visiting. It means listening. It means advocating. It means accompaniment. It means also refusing to allow people to suffer, alone. And it's not just in faith, but it's who human beings that we all are, that we should recognize the inherent dignity of each and every person that's detained, regardless of where we come from, regardless of our nationality, our race, our color, and whether we were born with an immigration status or not, that we need to recognize all of these challenges that they are being faced, and that they are not alone in the struggle.
Thank you. Monica, anything to add to that?
As Sally mentioned, the providers are detained, and families find themselves with less than half of their income per week or bi-weekly. And by the time people realize, I mentioned at some point that if we knew that at the beginning, when they don't have rent, the money for the rent, at the beginning of the month when they don't have it, that it would be easier for all of us who are advocating for them to help them. But most of the time, the families that I've been working with, they already come at the time when they receive a letter because they haven't paid for 2 months. And that becomes a very difficult time, because then we have to make sure that we accompany them to court to at least get a little time available to postpone it, and then to start figuring out how we can help them stay in the apartment, or if it's not going to be feasible for them to stay in that apartment, at least to help them to find something that is less expensive. And nowadays, there's not a lot of those apartments all around. And just work with them, to see what they are, what they can be, what they'll be able to provide. If we have to do an account for them, a GoFundMe account, or maybe the church where they go to, or the family can get together, or friends. Yeah, but those are the things that providers are detained, and families are just left with not a lot to work with, and especially under the circumstances that they have to work with.
So we're getting close to our allotted time for this conversation. So I'm going to ask you, how can people get involved to help and support this critical work?
Well, we have a lot of volunteers, and it seems like there's a lot of volunteers, but and this ties into self-care. Self-care for everyone is number one, for all the volunteers especially, because it is not an easy place to be at, and the subject matter is not easy to handle. So that's the most important thing, self-care. The other thing is to make sure that the families are cared for. And what can you do? I mean, we all have different talents, different time available. So for people who cannot be there, they can do virtual accompaniment, for example. When someone has a court date, they can do it virtually, or work with families or their groups, civic groups or churches, to be able to provide for families. It could be the gift cards for ShopRite or any of the other needs that the families are looking for.
Great, thank you. And Sally?
I think Kathy can probably put the links of like different ways to donate and support our work here. But I think one of the most encouraging things is that I can say is that everyone has something they can offer, right? You don't have to be an attorney. You don't have to have a background in immigration to make a meaningful difference. That people can get involved locally, wherever they are, wherever there's a detention center. And they can offer either visit a facility, engage with organizations that are already doing the work, accompany families in difficult moments, and for us, for example, show up, bear witness to what's happening here at Delaney Hall, and see where it fits in and what your passion is and how you want to support the efforts outside. And I think the most important thing is to learn what's happening, share these stories with others. And reach out to elected officials and advocate for humane immigration policies, because that's not what we are seeing. And that, we should remind, people that those that are detained, that they should not be forgotten. And I think that's important.
Thank you so much. Father Alex, I see your hand is raised. Did you want to add something in here? If not.
Yes. They opened my microphone. Okay. One of the things that I would like to, if we could help also some of the families that are of the detainees, sometimes they're threatened by the landlords, that they're gonna call. And sometimes, we have stories of mothers that had three underage kids, and they don't have a job sometimes, and so if we could advocate for them, if we could find a way to advocate for them, what I mean, probably they're in our own block, they're right there. So please, if you find that a situation, please just do not, because sometimes, our immigrants, they don't know, that there is like New Jersey has a complete defense of renters, for example, and it's very strong. That's one thing. Or, some of the families want to self-deport because they don't find any other way. They know that the husband or the wife is going to be deported, so they don't want to be they want to be united. So sometimes they don't even have, sometimes even to pay for the tickets, for example, the plane tickets. And sometimes they also want to send their belongings, the little belongings that they want to keep. And so to help them also with that, monies to be able to send that by boat, basically ship them to their countries, back to the country. So those are some of the little things that we could also do, and if we can help them. And we will see if I wish that we could. And I think I asked the Lord to please help us to see if we could create a system that we could help those that don't have no family inside. Those are the most vulnerable ones. They don't have even, sometimes they have to work in order to, to have a phone call, for example, and they pay them $1 a day, and they had to work 5 days to be able to make a phone call of 3 minutes. So this is not right. It's an abuse, it's an exploitation also happening inside. So if we could like create a system, and I will, if ideas or anything that we could, how can we help them, especially those who are the most vulnerable? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Father Alex, Sally, and Monica, not for only for all that you do and who you are, but the hope that you give to so many. So
Thank you.
we could stay here for a long time, but I know we have another guest coming on, so I will pass it back over to Kathy.
Thank you, Sister Susan and Sally and Monica and Father Alex for jumping in again with all that really great information. There were some questions in the chat, and I do just want to point out, and it ties into what Father Alex was saying, is that we used to be able to go in and visit before the hunger and labor strike started, but now they shut down visitation for several weeks. And when they reopened visitation, what they did was they limited it to family only. So people who have been transferred across the country or are asylum seekers and have no local family, they can no longer get visits from volunteers. So that is really, really making us sad. There are people that we know inside. Some were transferred far away, so we can't visit them, and some we're just unable to visit because the new policies of the facility will not allow us to go in. So, but on a more upbeat note, yesterday we did have a blessing of the tent. It was a house blessing. Father Alex was there, and so was Bishop Chow, and it was a lovely event. And I learned that there's a new tent. There was a Lutheran pastor who I know for a long time, who came, and he works outside the Metro Detention Center in Brooklyn, and he said he was inspired by what we were doing, and he is now setting up a tent with his group of volunteers when there's visiting hours outside that detention center. So maybe this will spread. I don't know. And we never know who's going to stop by the tent these days. And one of our visitors recently was Maria Stephan, and I get to introduce her, so it's lovely. So Maria is an American political scientist. She is co-lead and chief organizer with the Horizons Project. Previously, she was the director of the program on nonviolent action at the United States Institute of Peace, and she studies authoritarianism, protest, and the effectiveness of violent and nonviolent types of civil resistance. So, thank you, Maria, for coming.
Thank you, Kathy. Good to be with you. Well, yeah, it's a pleasure to be with you all. I'm actually just coming back to New York after a week of a broad front pro-democracy movement, and I had a great opportunity to spend a few days with Stephen Niamki, who I see is on this call. So that was a pleasure. And I visited Delaney Hall on May 29th. This was about a week into the hunger and labor strike by hundreds of our brothers and sisters held captive inside. It was actually Rosemary Pace of Pax Christi Metro New York who connected me to Kathy. And when I arrived in Newark, I took a taxi as far as I could go. And before I got to the hospitality tent, where I got to spend really wonderful time with Kathy and learning what was happening and what was going on, the first thing you noticed, when you walk, because the taxi lets you out, they wouldn't let anyone go within a half mile of the entrance of Delaney. And you just noticed the stench. So Delaney Hall is surrounded by sewage treatment plants, like asphalt mixing plants, like animal fat rendering plants, everything. There's just like stench in the air. And imagine like these are the smells, the odors that detainees inside, family members who are trying desperately to visit them, are breathing in every day, much less the volunteers who are in the tent, who are providing such love and care and support. And it just was after, then spending the day and observing what was going on, the love and action, the mutual aid. It just was that stench was just like the stench of the detention policies in general, the stench of inhumanity, and frankly of authoritarianism. And it just stood in such stark contrast to the beauty, the humanity, the mutual aid that is present outside Delaney Hall. And Kathy was so gracious with her time. She helped orient me to what was going on. And what I appreciated, meanwhile, journalists are coming in, volunteers are coming in, dropping off, diapers and waters and food cards and donations. So there's so much happening, at the 10. And so many people coming in and volunteers ready to help and find ways to support. And what I so appreciated about Kathy, not only had she been there for over a year, of course, and this has been, so much of her life's work for so many years now, but, she really was focused on lifting up the stories of the people inside Delaney Hall. There had been kind of confrontations between protesters and ICE agents and police that was happening about 100 yards away at the entrance of Delaney Hall. And sometimes the stories of what was going on inside Delaney Hall was being lost. Like the media wasn't covering it. They were covering the clashes. And, as a scholar of nonviolent resistance, I was blown away by the level of nonviolent resistance happening inside Delaney Hall. Like, the hunger strike and the labor strike. So it was like literally, and the story, these men and women who are detained inside are forced to work with little or no payment. They are forced to cook and clean and provide maintenance. And this is the profit model for GEO, right? The private prison contractor that oversees the prison is like, get the federal contracts and force those detained to do the work. So that's how they make a lot of money. And so the fact that these human beings had organized across the units of Delaney Hall a sustained hunger strike, and even more importantly, a labor strike. They denied their labor. And I remember hearing from Kathy that at one point, because the detainees were not providing the cooking, they were not cleaning out the bathrooms, the toilets, the prison wardens were forced to clean out the toilets as the politicians were trying to enter the prison. So, it was just like remarkable, and just like the level of humanity and dignity that was being expressed and I remember another story that Kathy shared about, the detainees who were walking outside during their, very few moments of recreation. They were marching in a circle and shouting Libertad, freedom, liberty, and just like so much humanity was going on. And so just observing, Kathy reading the SOS letters. At that time, there had been 3 letters, I think, released. Now there have been, I think, 5 or maybe more at this point. And so that was really striking and beautiful. And the other thing I observed was just the strong interfaith presence outside Delaney Hall. So, there was, there were interfaith vigils. There were 2 the day that I was there, one in the early afternoon and one later in the afternoon. And there was just something so powerful of, seeing pastors and priests and rabbis and laity, kind of locking arms and reading from scripture and singing freedom songs. And that's so powerful when people are feeling fear, just to help people feel hope and to diffuse tensions. Because there was a lot of tension that day. If I'm not mistaken, Kathy, that was the day that the police came in and like blocked off the entrance to the facility, and meanwhile ended up kind of beating up protesters and all. So there was just a lot of tension, of aggression. And so the presence of those faith leaders who, again, were lifting up the stories of the people inside. It was so incredibly powerful. And so it just shows, there's more to nonviolent resistance than protests and demonstrations and confrontations. all those things are really important, but mutual aid, community care is resistance. It's building, it's love in action. So that was so strong. And then, you know, the other thing, like the people were delivering food. I remember when I arrived, I think the hot dog guy had just arrived, so brought like big containers of hot dogs. So that was wonderful. And then by the time I left, one of the like Chinese restaurants, I think, had delivered Chinese food. So just like the level of involvement from faith leaders, community, immigration rights, small businesses, it's truly kind of a Big Ten effort at Delaney Hall. And then, you know, the other thing I was just reflecting on, because I learned, well, what are the other activities happening and how are people putting pressure on the corporate enablers of these detention policies? And I learned that, you know, there's a whole campaign targeting Citizens Bank, which is, you know, providing financial backing for Geo Group. So I'm learning that like at least 5 Citizen Bank locations are being kind of targeted for boycott, for pressure. There's efforts to divest. So, you know, New Jersey government's divesting from Citizens Bank. So that is just such a powerful way. I think it's called, what is it? De-ice Citizens Bank. Is that the name of the campaign? So just like goes to show how much is happening, how in the face of this terrible violence, inhumanity, there are just such powerful expressions of love, of organization, of humanity, and all of it's needed right now. And so I just want to say thank you for everyone who has been there for so long, day in and day out, for bearing witness, for showing solidarity and for showing love. So thank you for welcoming me.
Thank you so much, Maria. That was just an amazing summary of everything that's going on. Next, I think Frank is going to talk a little bit about our immigration working group here at Pax Christi USA.
Thank you, Kathy. And thank you, Maria, also for that wonderful summary. So my name is Frank Panopoulos. I'm a member of the Pax Christi USA Immigration Working Group, one of the members. And what I'd like to do now is just sort of invite people to think about working with the Immigration Working Group on replicating what's happening at Delaney Hall around the country at other ICE detention facilities. It's already happening, but there's space for people to get involved, including to have continual presences at these detention facilities, volunteers to help the families, volunteers to help the prisoners, and so to do that, we would invite you to put your email in the chat so we could collect it and get back to you about the work that we do, and to work together towards some sort of campaign, some sort of nationwide campaign, both to bring this idea of a radical nonviolent presence at the facilities, and a way to advocate for de-icing. And it could be everything from targeting financial institutions that support GEO and the other companies that run these prisons, to advocating local municipal leaders to do something about these facilities, to resisting the building of even more detention centers, because the money that's being given to ICE is for building large warehouse-type detention centers, and there are campaigns to stop this around the country, and it would be better to have more people to do it. And so the Immigration Working Group has resources and together with people who are interested in actually working to build a campaign, we can come up with all kinds of creative ideas and all kinds of other resources so that we can do what Kathy and the others have been doing at Delaney Hall to the other detention facilities around the country. So if you're interested in working with the Immigration Working Group, please put your email in the chat and we'll collect it and we will get back to you soon to follow up. That's all I have to say. And I don't know if Scott also would like to add anything to it, Scott Wright, who is also a member of the Immigration Working Group.
No, just a deep bow of gratitude to our presenters tonight and our pledge of solidarity. And thank you, Frank, for that invitation. And I think we will be meeting one more time late July, early August, and then again monthly beginning in September. So if you're interested, put your name and email address in the chat. We'll get back to you. And I think to close the evening, we'll go back to Kathy for a closing prayer.
Yes, I just want to say again, thank you for everyone who joined us tonight. And I get the pleasure of working with most of them, all the time. It really, it's a heavy space. It's difficult work, but there's lots of joy. There's lots of joy. Joy in, when the kids come out of their visit and they come running for the toy box. When you get to paint a painting or a new banner together with the children, when somebody gets released, when somebody gets good news that they've gotten a bond hearing or that their bond's been approved, there's a lot of moments of joy that we hang on to. But I think the through line with our speakers today was compassion, right? It was how we feel deeply for the work that we do, for the people that we meet. And to bring it back to Father Brian Massingale, there's a quote of his that I'm enamored with, and it goes, "We act justly not because we are intellectually convinced, but because we are passionately moved. Compassion moves the will to justice." So I hope that we helped stir your hearts, because that's what has brought all of us to this work. And we hope that we were able to stir your heart so that you will join us wherever you are, working with our brothers and sisters who are being oppressed right now. This is just the first step in authoritarianism, ridding our country of Black and brown people, right? The scapegoats. But it won't stop there. So I hope that you all find it in your hearts to open them up to our brothers and sisters who are suffering most right now. So I have a prayer and compassion that I'd like to share with you. Dear God, we pray for a compassionate heart. Help us to be more understanding and empathetic towards others. Let us see the world through the eyes of those who are suffering and be moved to action. May our compassion lead us to help and support those in need. Thank you for your compassion towards us. Help us to reflect that same compassion in our interactions with others. May we learn to listen deeply and to respond with kindness and care to those who are hurting. Guide us to be patient and non-judgmental, recognizing the struggles and challenges that others face. Help us to extend compassion to ourselves, understanding that we too are deserving of care and kindness. We pray for a world where compassion is the norm, where people look out for one another and support each other in times of need. Thank you for the opportunities to practice compassion. Help us to seize those moments and to make a positive difference in the lives of others. Amen.
Amen.
I want to thank everybody for being with us tonight. I really want to thank especially Kathy and Scott and Frank and Sister Susan and Monica and Sally and Father Alex. And thank you to Mimi for reading. Especially a big thanks to Kathy Ogle, who provided translation into Spanish as a volunteer. She volunteered her time to be with us and be our interpreter tonight. And we're so grateful for everyone's participation. Thank you to everybody who has been supportive of Pax Christi USA and supportive of Pax Christi New Jersey and the amazing work that's being done in Newark. And take care, everyone. This webinar has been recorded. We will make sure it gets posted on the Pax Christi USA YouTube channel, and we'll send a link and try to get, you should get an email tomorrow with the link for this. So if you want to revisit it, or if you have folks you want to share it with, please do so. And thank you again for all your support and all the wonderful work that you do. God bless you, everybody. Good night.